Bleacher Report's Howard Beck back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Howard?
Hey, Rich. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm fine. Can put into perspective what we saw from Isaiah Thomas last night, best you can.
I don't know if it's possible because we're combining like 1,000 different unlikely elements. I mean, I think it's fair to start with him having been the 60th overall pick in that 2011 draft that you guys were just alluding to. The fact that he was the last pick of the draft at all, the fact that, two pretty lousy teams didn't even see enough value to keep him, Sacramento and Phoenix, and that the Celtics got him for a song. And look, in defense of everybody, and Boston didn't know what they had when they got him, but that he is now performing at MVP level. At his size, we can never rule out the size thing. I looked this up earlier. He's now right up there. If you want to, depending on where you want to cut off the size, 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", 5'11", he might be the best 5'9" or below player in NBA history. But I'm going to hold off on keep it at might be because you want to see 3, 4, 5, 10 years of a guy's career first before you start making those declarations. But the level he's performing at his size surpasses just about everybody in that range who's played. And, that was a game I thought for sure they were losing that game last night. John Wall was on fire. The Wizards looked pretty good. Markieff Morris, seemed okay despite the earlier ankle injury. I thought they were going to steal that one and steal home court advantage. And, Isaiah Thomas just wasn't going to let it happen. And then you throw on top of all of that, of course, what he's been through personally with the loss of his sister. It's incredible. We're seeing one of the most inspiring playoff performances in a long time.
Yeah, don't forget to throw oral surgery on top of that too, Howard. I mean,
you know what? I was going to, Rich, but I feel like given what he went through to start the playoffs with his sister,
sure.
The oral surgery thing just feels so trivial.
No, I know, and I know it does. But then when you actually have to lace it up and play a basketball game a day after 6 hours of it, that you can't discount that either. The physical aspect of it.
The physical toughness that it takes to do like that in a vacuum. We would have praised that, right? Like if nothing else had happened, we would have said, "Wow, look at him going, coming back after 6 hours of oral surgery and how he toughed it out and everything." But like in a normal playoff series or a normal year, you might say that on top of everything else he's already been through, I feel like it feels strange to even cite it now.
Howard Beck of Bleacher Report joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. So how does it play out from here? This series, do you think?
Yeah, look, I think these are actually pretty evenly matched teams, and I think that what Washington nearly did last night, the fact that it went to overtime, shows this is not a team that's going away quickly. I think the series probably goes the distance. I think the Wizards win the next two at home. I think they are on balance. A slightly better team. The regular season records notwithstanding, I thought Washington has the better pieces overall. And I think that, there are going to be times when the disadvantages that you have with Isaiah Thomas in terms of his size and defensively and how that can hurt your defense overall, the Wizards, as this series goes on, I think will find better ways to exploit that. So we'll see. But I think the Wizards take the 2 home games and we get down to the best of 3.
Bleacher Report's Howard Beck joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. How much do we read into Houston's Game 1 win over San Antonio? I've been having thoughts after seeing that, and certainly the way that Utah tried to pound the ball up the floor against Golden State last night, much to its detriment, that the Rockets have the best shot at preventing the Warriors from getting back to the NBA Finals. What do you say, Howard?
Maybe. Here's where my hesitation is. One, the Rockets, they shot lights out from 3 the other night, and they have those nights, and that's what they were built to do. They're capable of doing, and there's no question they can have more performances like that. They also might not. They also might have a dry spell. And the Spurs might be able, or should be able to take advantage. Spurs also a very good 3-point shooting team. They just don't take nearly the volume, or the, or usually employ the same pace that gets you to those crazy attempt numbers from 3. But I'm always reminded of this, and there are various examples over the years. But it was one of those Heat Spurs finals. I can't remember which year it was. But we swung from like a 20-point route one direction one game to 20-point route the other direction the other game, and then back again. And it can happen this way in a playoff series with really great teams. Getting blown out in one game might mean absolutely nothing to the next. So after one game in, I'm not ready to proclaim the Spurs slow and dead, and the Rockets the biggest challenger to the Warriors, though it may play out that way.
Yeah, Howard Beck joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show, and Cleveland just keeps on keeping on. I just found it funny too, Howard, the number of times that you and I have spoken throughout the year about the whole resting dilemma that the NBA had to deal with and will have to deal with for next year. And how Cleveland, got a lot of the scorn because of the number of times that LeBron, who's the most popular player in the game, sat, and they sat for 8 days in the playoffs before in between games, and they didn't miss a beat. It's pretty remarkable when you think that, huh?
They earned that rest, right? No one's complaining there.
Right.
They earned that. They earned that one, but it shows the value of fresh legs. I mean. That's why teams are managing their minutes in the first place, is so that you can get these kinds of performances from LeBron in May and then presumably June. I still have some reservations about the Cavs. Like, I don't think that the problems that they had the last couple months of the season, being one of the worst defenses in the NBA, I don't think that that's gone away. I don't think they're showing like they were very good against Toronto the other night, but their sweep of Indiana was by a total of 16 points over 4 games, which I believe tied for the lowest point differential in a 4-game sweep ever. And that was against a not very good Indiana Pacers team. I'm still kind of waiting to be convinced. And, game 1 against Toronto, fairly convincing. Let's see how this series plays out again. I still feel like, the Cavs, it's nice to say that you can just flip the switch, but I don't know if we've seen that championship level yet.
And I was amidst a conversation last night around dinner time, Howard, about what do the Clippers do with the big three? Blake won't be back, or Chris Paul is just going to say, you know what, to hell with this. Maybe I'll sign with San Antonio and try and win a championship before I go away. How do you see this all playing out over the next weeks and months in Los Angeles?
Well, it's complicated, and it depends on which side of it you're asking. If the question is, should the Clippers bring everybody back, I think it's a no-brainer that you do, because if you let any of them walk, who are you replacing them with? You don't have the ability or the means to just simply get another Blake Griffin level or Chris Paul level player. So you should bring everybody back, even if you think you might just try to trade them down the road. I do think that there is something to be said for the idea that maybe they've hit their ceiling multiple times, or maybe it's just gotten stale. But the injuries are a huge part of it, and you can't pretend that that those things didn't happen. Every year, almost, they've had injury issues that have kept them from maybe fulfilling their ultimate potential. But if you want to shake it up, the question becomes, okay, to what end? Who are they bringing in instead? But the flip side is, if Blake Griffin or Chris Paul feel like it's gotten stale, or as you point out, maybe it's time to go somewhere else to win a championship, because Chris Paul's getting up there in years in particular, they've got that option. And, if even if the Clippers wanted to max them out, if you want to sacrifice money, you can do that. I don't know if Chris Paul or Blake Griffin are inclined to, but there are examples we've seen around the NBA the last 5-10 years. It happens occasionally.
Well, this may be fantasy basketball talk, but what about Carmelo joining this mix?
For Carmelo to get to the Clippers, one of two things would have to happen. Or maybe a few things. He's only going there if Chris Paul is still there, right? That's his buddy, and that's the alignment that makes sense. That's if Blake Griffin opts out and walks away and there's room. And I'd have to check the cap numbers, but you're going to have to find a way to either trade Carmelo into room or find the combination of players to send back. And the Knicks don't want to trade him for nothing. Yes, they need to separate, and the sooner the better for all parties involved. But Austin Rivers and Jamal Crawford is not a package. I don't think it's going to get it done. If they want to send them DeAndre Jordan, I'm sure the Knicks would do that in a heartbeat,
Sure.
But I don't think that's happening.
Right. Howard, we'll chat down the road. Thanks for calling in. Appreciate it.
All right, Rich, take care.
At Howard Beck on Twitter, Bleacher Report.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.
If you liked some of that, get some more of that on the Rich Eisen Show app. Follow all the information you see right here on the Rich Eisen Show.